All right, we are live and officially probably doing the right thing. Hello, fellow Sublime Text Fanatics. OdatNurd here. Welcome to this live stream. There have not been live streams for the last few weeks, but life coincides with getting in the way of things sometimes. There's was one point at which, right before the stream, there was a impromptu family meeting on Zoom, and it would have impacted on the stream. It would either have been really, really short, or would have started very late and still been short, and things of that nature. And also, I'm having a little bit of audio trouble, which I think I have resolved now. I've done some testing. I noticed that last week as I was getting prepared to stream, and I had to cancel pretty late notice. But we are here now, and for the foreseeable future, good to go as far as I can tell. Horrible hardware problems notwithstanding. I do have some alternate equipment, as I mentioned in the previous stream. I still haven't had a chance to get in that, but now might be the time. The stream idea for tonight is primarily to work on a couple of sample plugins that have come up throughout the week, because I haven't really. All of last week, I had a vacation time off, just myself, not my wife, because what with the world situation being the way that it is and the amount of vacation time that I have, my company doesn't like to carry over vacation into the next year. So it's very much definitely a use it or else. And they don't want everybody bumping up on their vacation all at once. And I get more vacation time than my wife does, so I figured why not take some time off, and I used that time to pre-record a bunch of YouTube videos going out for the next month and a half or 2 months, and some other miscellaneous things. So I haven't really had much of a chance to, wet my whistle, if such as it is, on actual development of plugins and packages in Sublime. So I thought we'd ease into some things by working on a couple of sample plugins that I've seen people ask for functionality for in the last day or two, and then depending on how time goes in that regard, making sure everything's still working good, we would jump into some HyperHelp slash HyperHelp author slash HyperHelp core type stuff. Basically, that's my help system, the help package that wraps it, and the help system for the authoring system for helping to edit things. I think we're getting somewhat closer to Sublime Text 4 release, and I think that's going to coincide with updates to package control being able to handle dependencies. So it might be time to start ramping up. And also, I've noticed some people whose nickname I can't remember off the top of my head is using HyperHelp to display Python help as well. So I think it's time to get back on the track and get that going. That's something I've sort of been setting off to the side, because right now HyperHelp is a dependency that bootstraps a package, and I wanted to wait to do more on it until the next version of package control comes out, because I think that's when it's going to start installing dependencies in a better way. And maybe we should not be bootstrapping our package, but have the dependency use package control to install it. And while I'm pondering that, and there's other indeterminate things happening in the Sublime Text world, I just sort of set that on the back burner. But I think it might be time to jump into that. So should probably refamiliarize ourselves with the code. But with all of that being said, I think we should probably go over here and click various buttons like yaw, and then one of these, and then say to the stream. So here we are in Sublime Text, and we are getting ready to rock and roll. Now, as I said, there's a couple of different plugin ideas that we have here. The first one is this, a plugin to advance the cursor to a given column. This is something that was asked by someone on the forum, which is a link I have right here. Having got a ruler at column 65 so I could align all my short comments, I realized it would be handy to have a key binding that just took my cursor to column 65 rather than hitting tab, 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 or space, 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 space until I got to the desired location. Having hunted around for a half hour, there doesn't seem to be anything. The closest I found is go to anything, which, as we know, doesn't do that sort of thing. Yeah, any ideas on something like this? There's probably something like this on package control. I would not be entirely surprised. But maybe we can take a crack at doing something like this. That seems like it might be an interesting thing. Now, what's not particularly specified there is when we say moving the cursor to a particular column, do we mean literally just putting the cursor there, or do we mean inserting spaces so that if the cursor was in the middle of a line, the cursor would advance to that line, carrying everything with it? that's probably definitely something that exists on package control, but we could probably work this both ways. So what I have written here is a text command that tries to move the cursor to either the column given or the next ruler. Because there can be multiple rulers in the buffer, we'll know where the current cursor location is. The tricky part about this, such as it is doing it on a per selection basis and not just once. But if we can do it for one, we can probably do it for a bunch of them, right? And if the line's not long enough, then insert spaces. So I think that's probably the best way to go. Good afternoon, evening, Ashwin. Time zones, they're tricky. I woke up this morning at 6 o'clock and it was already sunny outside. I don't know what the hell's going on. It wasn't sunny when I went for my walk, mind you. It was only sunny while I was eating breakfast, and it was coming in the window and beaming me right in the eye and giving me a minor headache. So it's been a while since I've managed to get in here. As I was explaining in the early part of the stream, there's been some family things going on that required, some time sync and some audio equipment issues such as it is, which are still kind of present there. But as long as I keep the volume on my audio mixer turned down low enough, we can't hear an irritating buzz throughout the room. And I don't entirely know what's going on with that because I have not changed any cabling in here in a while. So something somewhere is mighty unhappy. Hopefully it's not the mixer. I do have an alternate over there, but it doesn't have as many channels. So thinking on how would we do something like this, advance the cursor to a given column. Well, I'm going to say that we want our command to take a column number so that you could pass it explicitly, but if you leave that out, then it will try to take the cursor and move it to the next ruler that happens to be set, if there are any. And if there aren't, let's default it to 78 because that's what the wrap command does if there isn't any value for it when you use the wrap command. It should try to jump the cursor to that position by inserting spaces at the selection. Now, if the cursor was in the middle of a line, that would insert spaces to get there. And if it was at the end of a line, it would insert spaces to put things there because the cursor can't go past the end of an actual physical line. Sublime doesn't support that sort of thing. And if we can do it for one selection, we can do it for all selections, right? So let's see what we can come up with. Right. I forgot. I turned on underline in the. I don't think we necessarily want that. Yeah, I find that a little disconcerting. Just the glow's nice though. We'll go with that. Although I have been using the glow functionality with cursors or with the bracket highlighting, which actually works quite nice for that particular regard. Let's zoom that up a little bit. Particularly if you're working with HTML, which I was doing the other day, it highlights whole tags that way, so you can really see where the matching tag is a lot better than just a little underlining thing. At least for me, but HTML and XML kind of gives me hives. I hate that sort of thing. Now, say our command needs to have a column. Yeah, we'll just say call equals none. No. We'll leave it as none for now and throw in a pass. And what would be a good command name for something like this? Move and move to are already taken, so we can't overload those unless we made a command named move that took the same arguments as the actual move command does, and then we invoke the regular move command for whatever we're doing and do something special for the other argument. But I don't like to overwrite commands like that. I'd rather have a drop-in replacement, and this is kind of overkill for that. So let's say let's say insert to column command, because we're going to insert stuff to get the cursor to a particular column. That makes sense, right? And what are we going to call this? Insert to call. Thus. All right, we got that going. Now what? Move all selections to the given column or the next ruler if no column is given, or column 78 if there are there is no column and no ruler. And let's also say this requires all selections to be empty because we don't want to clobber over selected text by inserting things. And I don't like the idea of a command that screws around with the selection. Although clearly it would be easy enough to, anytime you have any selected text, no matter where it is, no matter how many there are, the left arrow jumps it to the start of the selection and the right arrow jumps it to the right hand side, even if it's selection that's backwards like this. So in a pinch, if all selections were non-empty, we could do what we want by first pushing, simulating the right arrow key by using the move by columns right or by characters one, or however you do that. I'd have to look in the key binding. I don't remember off the top of my head. Uh, but then you get into tricky situations where what if some of the selections are empty and some of them aren't, because if there's a non-empty, if there's a selection and a non-empty selection, then one of them jumps to the end and one of them moves position. So then you got to be careful about how you do that, and you have to do it manually. You can't just use the move command. So let's just say we don't want to open that can of worms, and if anybody's interested in that, they can tack that on themselves in order to work. And if we're going to do that, then the first thing we should say is enabled. I don't know why I expected that to work. And it's going to get that parameter, but we're not going to care what it is. And what do we return? All self.view.cell. Let's do this. We would say in a set, s.empty for s in self.view.cell, I think is how you want to do that. And then you use all to make sure that it applies to everything and not just one. So if we were to doing a thing, and if we go into the user keys and find this thing, whoops, we'll comment that out for the time being. Well, actually, I probably could have done that a little bit smarter, couldn't I? The command that we're doing is insert to column. So we'll go ahead and say insert to column like so. Close that. So if I do it, do we see anything here? Boop. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Checking. See how we got, I must have another one in there that I didn't notice. User Linux keys. Yeesh. Oh, yeah, I copied it and then commented out the copy and then did another thing. That's dumb. Oh, I actually had two of those. Interesting. I forgot that I did that. Huh. All right, well, good enough. Checking, doing a thing. So there's one selection. It's checking, but it's not doing a thing. If there's multiple selections, whoops, then it's still doing a thing. If all the selections are empty, it's not doing a thing. And if there's a selection and then just one other one, it's not doing a thing. Perfect. That's all we need. That's nice and easy. We like it when these things get a little bit easy to start with. Now we need to determine the column that we want to actually move to, which I imagine requires us to know the selection for where the current selection actually is, right? So let's go ahead and oops, do a little bit of that. Incidentally, there's been some changes to Snappy. If you haven't opened it recently, I synchronized it with the latest and greatest development documentation, including some modifications I made yesterday. Will pushed up some changes that fixed things like renaming spam tags to span tags and changing some of the formatting. But there were a couple of things that weren't documented, like the thing for inhibiting the reordering of completions in command completions and such. So I think what we want here is the row call. something like that. We can give it a point and only a point, right? Yeah. So whatever we do, uh, it needs to have a selection. What is a column? That's just the location, the line and column in the buffer here. So this is currently line 12, column 31, 32, 33, and so on. The cursor is always going to be, or all cursors are always going to have some column, which in the world of funny things is starting by 1 as far as the human world is concerned, but starting by 0 as far as Sublime is concerned for calculating things, which makes a lot of things easier. And then every now and then you run into that situation where something is off by 1 and you can't remember if you need to add 1 or subtract 1. For cell in self.view.cell. Okay, and we know all of these selections are going to be empty, right? So let's say we did something like do insert, and we took the self, we took the edit because we're going to need to insert something in the thing, and we need a selection and a column. Yeah. And for every selection, we can say self.doInsert. This will make the code a little bit nicer to look at while we're doing it. And then depending on how complicated doInsert ends up being, it could be easily inlined into this thing because we've mimicked all of the values for everything. So we would say edit cell call thus. We don't need that. Now we're doing something in here. And let's see. We want to use the column that was given, or the next ruler if no column is given, or 78 if there's still no column. Now, it seems to me, oh, yeah, that's right. It's not in. The wrap command used to be part of the default package, which is why Keith swapped this in. Use the shoot. Oh, I hate that. Use the narrowest ruler from the view if no width is specified or default to 72. So basically, this is what we want to do here, except that we chose a different thing. With the width, well, we'd say instead of not width, it would be the column. And let's say instead of none, then both of these are going to be 0, because that makes this easier. The column we get is the column that was asked for, or the next ruler defaulting to 72. Oh, sorry. An iterator that iterates over all of the rulers and then the value 72. So whichever the first one of those is. This isn't quite what we want, is it? We want it to be the next ruler, not just the narrowest ruler. Although this does point out that rulers, this could potentially be a pro tip if you didn't know this, but you can specify multiple rulers. I mean, that part's obvious because I have 2. I have one at 79 and one at 80 in Python. But they can be in any order you want them to be in, and not necessarily lowest to highest. And when you use various commands like the internal wrap command, Sublime picks the first one out of the list and not the largest one, if that makes sense. So in this case, because I have one at 79 and 80, and I put them in that order, when I do this, it wraps to the shorter one. That's not a particularly good example of that, but merge works the exact same way. That's not going to be a way to do that. I do the exact same thing in my Sublime merge settings. If I actually had some text in here, there's 2 rulers in here. There's one at column 50 and there's one at column like 70. I set the rulers to be 70, 50 so that the first line of the commit I know lines up to that, but when I type a bunch of stuff in here and I want to wrap, it wraps at the outer one and not the inner one. So I guess we kind of need to do something like that here, because in our situation, we don't necessarily want to just go to whatever the first ruler is or the lowest ruler, which is what that is doing, which is slightly different than what the internal command does. But instead, find the ruler that's closest to this particular ruler without going past it, I guess would be the point. So let's see. If I did that, we get 72 because we didn't actually provide any argument, right? So let's go ahead and user Linux keys. Let's open that again. And args of column, and let's say 60. 65. He said 65 in his little thing there. So now when I do it, it ends up at 65. And for the purposes of this, we could say view.settings.set rulers 20, 60, 65, 80. Whoops. There we go. Now we got a bunch of rulers in here. So right now the way this is working is it's going to pull 65 out, the narrowest ruler from the view, which does not seem technically correct if that's the order they're coming out in. That's interesting. Let's see. What if I did this? Doop. Oh, right. My bad. A little rusty here. Okay, it's definitely doing that. Why would it return 65 in this particular case and not, because that's the value that I provided to the command, right? Right. Yeah, that's totally doing what I want. This is why you shouldn't take a week off from writing code. Doing video outlines will kind of wreck your brain sometimes. Well, I mean, clearly we could solve that temporarily just to see what it's doing by doing that. And then we can see it definitely comes up with 20 every time. So if a particular column was given, then do it. Otherwise, find the ruler. So this kind of works. What we actually need is, well, actually, this should be 78 because I said 78. Well, we'll just change this to 72. I don't care. There might be a reason for 72. So let's remove that. Whoops, no, don't do that. Let's remove that comment for the time being. This iterator is returning all of the settings. So if we just had something else to iterate over that wasn't that, then it would technically return the right thing, right? Let's get rid of that too. Let's say, and again, we'll do this as something else here. Find column for self and cell and call. How do we actually want to do this? We want to provide the list of rulers. We don't care about the column. Right. No, rulers like this. Yields 12. So this is for grabbing. Do you need to iterate over a generator? Probably not. I'm going to say probably not, and then we'll find out how wrong I am. Self.find column for, cell and that. Hmm. I don't tend to. Okay, maybe we'll wrap that in an iter call just to see. We're really feeling our way out on this one. Iter. I really would have thought that it would call that. Oh, right. Again, I thought I changed that. Hang on. There. Right on. Okay. Print rulers and then do it, and we end up with that. And let's print cell.a. Right on. Oh, cool. We need the view too, but we have the view. It's us. Awesome. So let's say that we'll say the caret is self.view.rowcall and cell.a. Cell.a and cell.b don't both are going to be the same value because we're making sure that our selections are all empty. So the beginning point and the end point are the same point in the buffer. And we get row comma column, I think I cite over there. Zero base column numbers are returned. The zero based line and column. So line first, then column. So that would probably be 0. Sorry, 1. Line, then column. Right. Zoom that back out again. We'll do that. Oh, actually, we'll do this. We'll short circuit it there, so this code always does what we expect. So we're going to pass this. Now, we don't want to pass the selection. We want to pass the caret like this. So when I do it, we replace all of the values like this, I'm currently on line 23, column 20, and, whoops, hang on. I'm on line 23, column 29, and we're getting 28, right, because it's 0 based and not 1 based. Right on, man. That's cool. All right. So we need to find the thing in there. So I think what we want to do is capture the rulers once. So let's say rulers equals sorted this. Okay. Cut that and say rulers. So that the list of rulers is always absolutely perfectly sorted the way one might want it to be sorted. So now we have the column that the cursor is currently in, and we have the list of rulers sorted to be lowest to highest. So that's going to make that a little bit easier on ourselves. So, I mean, that's what the setting was before. But if I was to say 90, 20, 65, like so, when I come up here and do it, 90's back on the right-hand side there. So it's not maintaining the order like it was before. Perfect. Now, we really only need to do this part when that part's there, but we'll worry about that in a second. So we have here the caret and the rulers. The real question is, what do we do if we're past all of the rulers? Return -1 and then not do anything? I think that's probably the best way to go, right? Actually, let's say this returns the actual string to insert at the cursor position to get it to the appropriate thing. It's not really what find column does. So let's say we want this to return a number, and the number is how many spaces do we need to insert when the caret is at this given position to find the next available thing. And we have that. So what we need to find is the closest column in here, and then we can do that part. And I believe we want something like thus. Let me just go ahead and do that. Doop. maximize. Similar to bisect left, return an insertion point which comes after to the right of any existing entries. Now we want bisect left. Locate the insertion point for X in A to maintain sorted order. The parameters low and high may be used to specify a subset in the list, which should be considered. So that's the entire list. This is something that I use in override audit and also in, whoops, do that, pal. In HyperHelp as well. Essentially, it's doing the thing where if you have a, I need to import bisect up here. From bisect, import bisect left, like so. Should work just fine, I would imagine. Cool, new line. Given a list and a number, basically it says where would you insert this into the list in order to have things in a sorted order. So if we have a sorted list of rulers, which we do, and we have a particular column that we want to hit, we can see whereabouts we would have our column in the list in order to insert it in there, and then we know whatever comes after that is the place where we want this to go. And if it ends up at the end of the list, then we know that we're already past the point where we care. Which is something that we would just return, I think, just the last value in that particular case. So what we got here, and again, we'll just write just a quick little comment here because we're going to factor all of this stuff into one thing. Now, often, if you've ever seen me implement a plugin for someone on the forum or on Stack Overflow, 9 times out of 10, I'm working it from this sort of logical, how could we do this perspective? And then once I've got it done, I'm like, okay, let's tighten this up. This could be better. This could be better. But I don't like to get in my way by trying to design it to be super tight before it gets to a point where it's actually working. The old mantra, make it work, then make it pretty, or make it work and then make it fast, or make it work, then make it work fast and pretty. No one cares how pretty your code is or how fast it performs if it doesn't do what it's supposed to. So I guess does this neck technically have to be an it doesn't have to be a generator anymore. So this could just return. What we're actually trying to find here is what column we want to move the cursor to, right? So the default of 72 could be here, so we don't need to necessarily do the thing there that we were thinking of. So we would say, okay, pos is equal to bisect, locate the insertion point for X in A. So in the rulers, search for caret. Low and high may be used to specify a subset of the list, which is not what we want. By default, the entire list is used. If X is already present in A, the insertion point will be to the left of any existing entries. The return value is suitable for use in the first parameter of list insert. Okay. And the returned insertion point partitions the array into boop boop. So let's go ahead and say that and that. And then we'll just, print 12 because what do we care? Because we're just sort of caring about what we do. So because call is 0, we're definitely using the actual position of the cursor. Right now, we're over here. So if we did it, oh crap, did I not spell that right? Oh, whoops, my bad. I was thinking of doing that a different way and then I did not. Okay, let's get rid of that. So at column 0, and with the caret of 0 and those rulers, it thinks that because it's position 0, we should go to 20. And if we were here at position 42, the next thing that comes after that is 60, because the next in the list of rulers, column 42 follows right here, and then there's column 60, right? And if we were here and we did it, then we get a value of 65 because the cursor is at column 63, and the next one after that is 65. And if there was something that had a whole bunch of spaces on it already, like this, Then we end up with a value of 80 because the cursor is currently at 75. This is one of those situations where we probably need to be careful about off by 1 errors or something. So we'll have to consider that in a moment. That's finding us 80 the way we might like. Inside this area, it'll find the 90. And out here, it throws a problem because the position is outside the range of things. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the length of the thing, which means it's already off the right-hand side. So let's say this. If pos, okay, actually let's yield back the actual value. So let's say this. We'll print caret is at this number and the rulers is this, and then we'll say caret, comma rulers. So we'll just see what's happening. We find the actual position, and then we say if the position is equal to the length of the rulers, then yield caret, and we'll print at or past the end of the line. And otherwise, we can say yield rulers pos and say, oh, actually, let's move that up so we can add this in here. You can see all the values. So if it's equal to the length of the list, then we're at the end of the list. Just return wherever the caret currently is. That's the area we want to go to, and then we'll find out that the distance between that and the place we want to go is 0, and we won't do anything. Otherwise, we will print out and say desired location. Well, actually, we don't even need to do that part, do we? Because we're just going to yield the value of the thing, and that's going to be printed automatically by the code up there. Okay, so let's see how we did. If we're at the start, then the caret's at 0, the rulers are there, the position is 0. We want to get to column 20. And here we're on 5, so the caret's 4. It's still giving us 20. Oh, wait, that's not actually a ruler, is it? Sorry, that's an indent line, my bad. If we were right at column 20 when we did it, we would end up with trying to find 20 because this isn't off by 1 error, I would imagine. Caret 19 is 20, caret 20 is 20, and whoops, one more takes us to 60. So if we're actually at a point, I guess that's kind of what we want here, isn't it? If we said to do it, no, we said it would go to the next ruler. You probably want it to stop at a ruler if you're doing this with multiple rulers. I think that makes the most sense for the use case that this person has and the way that I would use something like this. If I wanted all of my comments to line up at column 70 or something, I'd add a ruler for 70. I'd select all of the things. I'd push the tab key once. Everything jumps over. Life is grand. So if something's already at that position, you don't want it to go even further on. So I think that's exactly what we want to have happen in that case based on that test. And where's that really long? Right, the big long line was trimmed out. So here it would give us to 80, which is the column we're currently at. So it would actually, well, not currently at, but it would bump up one. I think because the rulers are 1 based, this ruler is currently at 20, but the cursor is at 21, so it looks like that. So I think that works the way we want it to. This is column 80 as far as that's concerned, because when I type the character, it ends up with the cursor at the ruler situation. So that's going to do what we want, and that's going to say 90. At this point, it's 90. At this point, it's 90. And here, it's at or past the end of the line, and it ends up with 91. Right, because at that point, we're telling it the actual position of things, right? So I think that is what we want there. And now that we know that, let's continue on here with what we would actually do. So when we actually do the insert, we have a caret, we get the caret position, we get the list of sorted rulers because we might need it, and we're probably going to do that more than once. This is actually something that we should probably boost to here, and then just add this as a argument like this, because if we're going to need it once, we're going to need it for all of them. Why continuously sort the thing all the time? Plus, we're going to refactor this up anyway. So now we have the caret position based on this selection. We figure out what column do we want to go to. It's either one that was specifically requested or the next column from here. So we don't actually want this because we originally said move all selections to the given column or the next ruler if no column is given, or column 72 if there's no column and no ruler. So if there wasn't a column, that's when we would be calling find column, and if there weren't any rulers, that is where this would go, right? So we might be able to sort this by saying if not rulers, call equals 72. And then if there weren't any rulers in the buffer, the column would get constrained to the particular one. Now we don't need to worry about this anymore. And we don't necessarily need to iterate over this because it's only ever going to yield one value. So it would just be that, and this doesn't have to be a yield then in that case. This has to be a return. And things still work. And we haven't tested this yet, but it would work for, well, we've got to insert some stuff here. If there was one cursor there and one cursor there, when we hit the key, one of them should go to 65 and one of them should go to 20. And the first one would go to 65. That's this one. It's currently at 63, so it would move to there, and the other one goes to there. So that's finding what we want. If there were no rulers, if we said view dot, if we set this to be an empty list, like so, then when we hit the key, we're getting 72 here. Because there's not any rulers. And in that case, if we commented out this line, we'll see it constantly saying, or it should, I think, say, oh, because there's not any rulers, it's doing that. Yeah, that's not safe. This needs to happen in the other spot. If not rulers, return 72 is how this needs to work, like so. And not here, because we need the actual column that was provided. So if there was a column provided, it's always the one that's used for this operation no matter what, right? And if there wasn't one provided, then we use the cursor location to try to determine based on rulers. If there aren't any rulers, it comes up with that predefined value that we set. And if there were rulers, as we saw previously, then it would actually pull those values out instead. And as we move further along the line, we get it doing that sort of thing. And once we get past the end of the line, we just get whatever the current cursor location is. Perfect. Okay. And we could just say if rulers do this. And then return 72. I think that looks a little bit nicer. So if there are any rulers, then find the position where it would go. Actually, we can even make this cooler. Return rulers pos if return caret if pos equals len rulers else rulers pos, like this. Then we don't even need all of this nonsense. Then it looks a little bit nicer. Sweet. And we're using pos to capture the value there so that we don't have to keep doing things all the time. We don't have to calculate it twice or something. So that is doing what we want. We're actually finding the column. So now we have the cursor location. We know what column we actually want here. And this is another one of those things that we could actually inline this right now if we wanted to. Return cart. That's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. It should be caret. There we go. If there aren't any rulers. This could be inline, but again, we're just going to leave that alone. So what this is printing right now is the place where it actually would go to, right? So let's say caret minus the column. So if it thought it, column and column minus the caret. Okay. So here it thinks it should go to 60. That's 29 things from where it currently is. If we cancel that out so that we actually get a specific location, whoops, don't do that, thank you. It thinks it should go to 65, which is 34 characters from here. If we had a bunch of spaces and did it, we get to be 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it thinks it's 0 because it's actually at the position, and now it's negative. So we want to say if col minus caret. No, actually, we want to say that length. Yeah, is equal to col minus caret. Figure out exactly how many spaces we want to. Okay, now let's just call it spaces. And then if spaces is greater than 0, self.view.insert. And this is the part where we can never remember. I'm going to guess we want the edit, we want the position, which is the caret, and we want the string spaces times that. Let's see. How do we do? Edit point text. Inserts the given string into the buffer at the specified point, returns the number of characters inserted, which may be different if tabs are being inserted, but we're not. We're doing it this way. So with the value of this being, and we'll go ahead and put that there, 65, if I hit the key, uh-oh, whoops, that is not what we want. My bad. We've got to convert that back to a specific thing. All right. We need to take that back in the other direction. We actually don't want caret here. We want cell.a because caret is its column in the buffer, but we actually want to insert it where the cursor actually is. Okay, so there we go. Whoop. Back over all of that. That's loaded. So if I hit it here, we wanted it to go to column 65, and we're actually in column 66 now because it went one too far. This is that thing that I mentioned about a potential off by 1 error. But it did do what we thought it should otherwise. For right now, it's totally finding the actual ruler position, right? So let's say if I did it here, it should jump to all the rulers. As a matter of fact, let's do it down here so we can see it better. As I hit the key, it should jump from ruler to ruler to ruler to ruler and then stop. So it should go to there. Oh, it's at, oh, right. If it's at the ruler, we need to go one farther than that, don't we? So if there was one more space, then it would go. And then after that point, it doesn't do anything because it's already there, right? Okay, so one other thing we have to do here. And when it did that, when we hit there, we hit 20 and 20, the thing is actually 0. But the caret position is 1 based, 0 based. So for our purposes, let's add +1 here just to see what that's going to do to us. So now we wanted it to go to 20, and it's at 20 because the next character puts the cursor there. We can see it also down here in the status bar. We're at the position where if we were to type something, it would actually go there, which I think is what you want for something like this. Then if I hit it again, Oh, it still stays there because it's 0. Right. I think that's closer to what you might want. No, I don't. Man, I don't think it is. I think you actually might want it to jump right to the ruler if you're doing it this way, right? If Let's see, if I said I wanted it to be jumping to column 75 or 65, it actually goes to column 65. Otherwise, it's going to rulers. And if you set the ruler at column 65, which, I thought I did up there. Man, that's a real poser. What's the best way to pull something like that off? Uh, let's do this. If rulers, oh, shoot. No, we don't do it there. No, it needs to be one further on. So we can't do this as smoothly as we did here. Let's see. If pos is equal to len rulers return caret, right? So if the position is at the exact end of the list, just return what the caret position is so that we don't go any farther than that. Otherwise, the cursor's not there, it's somewhere in between. So we might say return rulers pos if rulers pos is not equal to caret else rulers pos plus 1, which is probably going to also throw a stupid error, I would imagine, when it gets to the end of the list, right? So, oh, whoa, pardon me. That needs to be back for our testing purposes. So jump to there, 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 and then after that, nothing happens. Well, except for that thing, yeah, which is what I thought was going to happen there, because it goes off the end. So I think we want to say greater than or equal to. That was saved, so it would go jump to there, to there, to there, to there, to there. Now it's at the last ruler. It can't go any farther than that. Shoot. No. Oh, what am I doing? If the position to insert is greater than or equal to the length of the rulers, or if it's at the end of the list, or rulers pos. Wait, what was I testing here? I got ahead of myself with something that I was thinking of doing and screwed myself up. We need to find the position in the list of rulers that's where we would insert this. If we actually hit the end of the list, then we want to return wherever the caret position is. The other time we want to do that is if the ruler's position is equal to the caret and if the position is equal to the length. Right? No, because if the position was equal to the length, it would just always do that anyway. This won't do what we want. It'll stop in the wrong place every time. We're trying to get around it actually doing that. It would have done that on its own. We want to return the caret position when we would have inserted if we were past the last ruler, because we're searching rulers, or when we examine the current cursor location and compare it against a ruler, it matches, and the position is the last item. And pos equals to len rulers. Whoops. That's not the language I'm using. So jump, 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 jump. And then it's screwed. All right, I think I need to actually just think about it instead of trying to crank some stuff out, you know? It's probably the best way to pull something like this off. This is an interesting problem because I hadn't actually fully considered what I was going to do for this until after I came up with the little blurb. Mostly I was thinking of doing HyperHelp stuff, and then I remembered the Stack Overflow question and thought, hey, well, actually this one isn't even the Stack Overflow question. We should have did that one. Let's see what we can get going here. The Stack Overflow thing I think is going to be a lot easier. That's the next thing that's on the list. When we hit this, what is it actually printing there again? Column and the column minus the caret. Right. Which is probably something we don't really care about at this particular juncture. What we care about is what's happening in this thing. We know there are rulers, so it's doing this. Print the length of the rulers and the position and the caret. Rulers. There we go. So gotta scroll that down. Jump, 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 jump. So here we are at this position. Now when we hit the key, we get an error, but what we get is those were the rulers. It found the number of rulers is 5. The position it had was 4, and the value was there. I think this is why I'm sort of confused why that didn't work, because anytime the position is at the end, it should have automatically gone, right? The position isn't equal to the length of the rulers. The position was 4 and the length is 5. Jump, 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 jump. And it just stops there. That's actually inserting extra stuff. So there's actually more things we actually want to do in there, but we'll worry about that in a minute. Yeah, we gotta stop that from going. Actually, no, we don't, because we actually specifically said we want to insert text to go there, right? We don't want to just, for the purposes of this, the way that guy specified his problem, if you wanted to just jump to column 65, you could jump to column 65, but what's the point of that if you're trying to line stuff up at a ruler? I think what we're trying to do is insert stuff to a specific position, right? So the last thing that's being printed in there is the caret position, which is 80. That can't be right. The last thing is this. So 5, position 0, caret is 1. It was 1. Now it's 20. Now, yeah, it's right. The caret position at the start, right? So at 65, but actually it's column 80 now that it's done inserting things, and then it jumps to the next one, and then that's as far as it goes. It doesn't go any farther than that. So I think that is what we want. We don't. So to double check, oops, pardon me, what we did here, if there are rulers, then find the position in the rulers array where the current cursor location is to the left of, to see where would we insert the current cursor position to get into the list of things. And then we know that whatever's at that position in the list is the next ruler, which is what we're printing here. And if we end up with the position that is the last item in the list of rulers, then just return the caret position, because we're already at or past the position where the last ruler is, and in that case we can't go any further to the right from there. And then we return the actual ruler at the position that was provided if that position isn't the caret location. If it is the caret location, then we skip one ahead. And because we stopped that list before it gets to the point where it might go all doolally on us, that's what we want. And we return 72 if there aren't any rulers. We're only calling this if there's not a column. So we got that going on. Then we do a little bit of this and do the insert. And that gets us to things where we can jump this text to specific places. Well, I guess what we'd actually need to do is use the correct key for that, right? So if I was lining up some series of comments, like say this was commented out, and I wanted to actually bump this over, I could hit the key and it jumps it to specific rulers. Now what we actually need to do in that case is, whoa, we need to do that. Oops, don't do that, man. Don't do that. We need to make sure this is all commented, then split it into lines, and then jump to the start of the line and hit the key. And we can jump these things. And they're going one shy of where we expect them to go. So even though the cursor is going to the position that we thought it should, it's going one shy. So yeah, we definitely need that to go. And I think, was that the thing we did for that? And let's test this to make sure we didn't break the other part of it now that we have changed some of the fundamental rules of the universe. And that still does nothing. So again, if we wanted to jump this to different rulers, we could easily do such. And that is what this guy wanted. Now, could we do this for multiple selections at once? Yes. The nice thing about this is normally when you work with multiple regions and insertions and deletions and stuff, and you need to be careful to apply them from the bottom up because you're using pre-calculated regions, but that's not necessary when you're working with selections because one of selection positions are automatically updated in the buffer. Like if there's a cursor here and a cursor here and a cursor here, when these are all at specific offsets in the buffer, and just like a region, they move when there's edits. So should be good to go on that front. So what he wanted was, let's go ahead and check. Tries to move the cursor to either the column given or the next ruler. If the line's not long enough, then insert spaces. Well, he said move it, but I think we're going to want to do it that way. So if we were to inline some of this stuff, if not call, then do this. We would do find column, which is this, paste it here. I guess we kind of still want this to be inlined, or not inlined, because of the fact that there could be multiple things, right? So yeah, let's leave that. Fine. Well, we'll change the name though. Find next ruler. Thusly. So we have the caret position, we have that, the number of spaces, insert them. So if there's already something at a particular location, then it won't get bumped to the next one. So this is mostly of use when there is actually a column specified, because if I did it this way, I'm telling everything to jump to the next ruler, and that is exactly what it's doing. But if I had not specified that and I said that I wanted this to go to a specific column, then when I hit the key, it jumps to that column. And if we had multiples of these, then one of them would move and the other ones wouldn't, which is what we want. So I think that's pretty much that realistically. Insert spaces at every selection in order to move the cursor to the given column. or the next ruler or column 72. Cursors that are already at or past the destination don't move. And empty so that we don't clobber any selected text. Because I guess theoretically it could iterate over just the non-empty selection or the empty selections and leave the non-empty selections alone, but I don't know that anybody wants to do that. So I think this is more or less what that dude actually wanted. What we could do is inline the do insert because caret is going to be something, the column is what's being passed in. So I think we could just do a little bit of that and get rid of those. And it should still work. Whoops. The way that one I would expect. So if I put the cursor there and go boop. Oh, right. Sorry. I need to do that thing where I say call equals 0 to ensure that it's being called at a specific thing, that it is, in fact, jumping things. Beauty. Okay, well, that was fun. Next thing on the list, and perhaps this one be a little bit nicer. I'll plug into Mark selected text. This one is from Stack Overflow, and I think I might have a link to something like that over here. Let's see. We can. Thus, this guy's making a transition from Notepad++ to Sublime Text 3. Very useful feature in Notepad is to mark text with a color. Search, mark all using style. This gives an option to mark text with different colors and keep the text highlighted once the selection is moved to another line. And you can't seem to find this feature in Sublime because Sublime doesn't have that feature. And of course, as in most things, if you search package control, there's probably something like that. But we could probably make something like this too. Now, I've never used Notepad++, but I looked into this because it sounded like it was an option where you would like do a find, and as a part of the find do mark. But it doesn't sound like that's how it works. You can define, I think, up to 5 different styles, which is colors, if I'm understanding it correctly. And then after you have done a find, you do something that says mark all the selected text. So realistically, for our purposes here, if we wanted to do something like that, apply a region to mark selected text. How this person would do this in Sublime would be to enter a search term, do the find all option to select everything, and then trigger the command, and it would highlight stuff. There can be multiple regions to choose from. In the thing there were like 5. There are specific ish colors, and as a matter of fact, we might even jump over to the help here. If we looked at colors, was it specified in here? No, actually, it's actually in this. Add regions, I think they're actually listed in here. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say there's 8 different potential styles that we could have here because these are the colors. Now what we could actually do is, there's a lot of ways to do something like this, right? Ostensibly what we're going to do is call add regions to provide something that marks up the selected text, which is very easy to do. There's multiple different colors we could use. One thing we could do is allow the user to specify whatever colors they want, which would require us to write a temporary color scheme file to augment, to add regions. Or we could just use these to provide appropriate colors. Or some combination of the two, right? One of the things that's nice about the latest versions of Sublime, and I have my find thing turned off, but um, when you actually use find, the scroll bar shows you all the places in the buffer where that happens so that you can easily see it, which is really nice. I wish regions could do that too. That would be handy. So let's go ahead and let's see. What did I just do? Anything? Uh, uh, yeah, I think we want that to be in there, and we'll go ahead and close that and say new plugin, and we'll say mark selection command. Now, how do we actually want this to work? There has to be selected text, right? So let's work this. Let's go ahead and work this. Oops. Mark selection.py. Okay. Mark all of the selected text in the provided style. If style, okay, no, actually we won't even do that. We'll just say we're going to use input handler or something like this, let's say. Yeah, that'd be cool. Let's input handler this bad boy. What's that? There has to be at least one non-empty selection, let's say. Do you want to trigger this only when there's just all selections? If there's a region that doesn't have any text, it's essentially a marker. There has to be, okay, all selections need to be non-empty. That makes sense. Well, if that's the case, let's copy this, because that's going to do exactly what we want. And VPF and user Linux keys, and we'll change this to mark selection, like so. Now let's actually, whoops. Let's do this the easy way. Self.view.add regions. We do this to see that, zoom that panel out, and we can see exactly what it is we're doing here. The key is going to be cell 0, let's say for our purposes here. Self.view.cell is the list of regions, and region.reddish is the thing we want. So if I was to ta-da, like this, then I want to hit the key. Oh, what? Oh, I didn't remove the arguments. Derp. I'm not used to having that sort of thing going down, don't you know? There we go. That'll be smarter. Okay. It says ta-da. Oh. We want all selections to not be empty. We want the opposite of what we wanted before. Previously, we wanted all selections to not be empty. Now we want them to all be empty. So now it's not working, but now it is. And if I hit the key, it's marked up with red. And there, if I did that with just a single character, it would be marked with red. So in the world of getting this to do what we want, find all of the defs, hit the key, they're red now, which is not the easiest thing in the world to read by any stretch of the imagination. If it happens to be text that's red. But for the purposes of what that guy wants to do, that's how easy that is. Can you display stuff in, yeah, you can, can't you? Let's say there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possible styles of things. And then we need to know what style we want, right? thus. And we might actually just do this by doing this. Boom, boom, boom. Copy, come over here. Styles is equal to a list that has this content. And let's say all of these lines had a comma on the end, and they were like that. And they were all single quotes, including this one, which did not get handled. So there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is the style number that we want. Style name is going to be equal to cell style %d mod style, and scope is going to be equal to underscore styles and the style number. And then we would swap this to use the style name instead of the hard-coded thing, and instead of region reddish we would put scope. And we don't need that because we'll definitely know if it's doing something. Now when we run the command, it is going to fail when we do it because it requires an argument, but we haven't actually given it one, right? But if we were to say if we say class, what do we call that? Style list input handler, and that was a list input handler. And we did this, we could see what we want to have for that value. And the name of the argument, it's going to be style, so that's fine. So we want to def list items self and return the items to show in the list, and if it's a list of stir value tuples. So we might want this to be something cooler than this. So let us do whoops. Thus, wrap it, and then say style and the arithmetic command for thus, and then one of those. And oh, crap. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I clobbered away all of these things. Whoops. There we go. So if we did that, then this would be scope is equal to styles 1 because it's that particular item. Actually, the key could probably be, well, we'll worry about that later. The key could actually be this as far as the regions are concerned. What does it care? Return underscore styles with the name and the value, like so. Should compile okay. Then we need to do input for self and args, and then say if style not in args, return style list input handler. Do you have to use new? I'm going to say you don't have to use new. What we do need to do is new commands file, and oh, that's still there? Okay. We want an item that says mark selection, and that's the actual command, right? Yeah, mark selection. Thus, all of these can go away. Oops, that's not the one I thought it was. There. I don't need to move it down. We just need to do that. We'll save it in the user package as mark selection.sublime commands. So if we were to ding all those and then say mark selection, Okay, did I miss a step here? Did I? Oh, oh, oh. How about that? There we go. That caused its own issue before it had a chance to test things. So if we wanted all of these to be marked, we could mark selection and take a particular style, like say 4. And did that do anything? Oh, style list. Oh, whoops, whoops, whoops. For some reason, I thought list input handler and input handler get redacted away, but they don't. So we would select all the stuff. We'd open the command palette, say mark selection style 4. And now what? Oh. Harkening back to conversations we had earlier today in the Discord. Watch this. Mark selection, style 4. Really? Oh, right. I'm actually I'm actually getting a different value now. I'm actually getting the huh. Interesting. Uh, could return a list. Could return a list. And we don't need to check that list anymore. This is just now style 1, I think. Yeah. I think the problem there is originally this was supposed to be a number that indexed to the list. Whoops. But that's not what we have now. So, boy, that just really goes very wrong. One of those and one of those. Okay. And then we can throw an arithmetic in here. But just I. I think that should be what we want. We'll print style like this. We actually don't need to do it that way. We could actually just have the actual key be in the list, which is the thing that I was originally thinking of. So if I did that and said mark selection with style 4, we end up with 3 and region greenish, and they definitely end up being green. There's a little more that could be done here. We need a clear selection for one thing, because that's going to be irritating really easily. Let's say instead of being this, we had a string that was cell style that, and then we don't need to actually do that. We can just say style name comma scope is equal to star style. I'm not sure if you can do that with a list though. Can you do that with a list? Let's find out. I'm not entirely sure. Mark selection. Oh, I broke it. Yeah, you can't use a start expression or something like that. And you can't pass a tuple. Actually, maybe you. No, that definitely is a tuple and it's not working. It comes in as a list. So yeah, this definitely needs to be just that and like so. Okay. So bang, bang, mark selection style 8. Which is still style 7 and pinkish, and there we go. Cool. So let's start janking some stuff up in here. If we view package file, mark selection.sublime commands. We could have one for clear marked selections. Do I like the names of these commands? Not as such. Okay, so we might say class clear marked selections sublime plugin dot, yeah, that needs to be a text command because it's going to associate with this buffer. Clear all selections associated with the given style. And we're going to do something special on this one. This one just needs something like these. Do 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 ba-do ba-do. You can remove that because we know that's going to do something. Now, right now, this is just going to do exactly the thing it was doing before. But what we can actually say is self.view erase regions, I think is the magic. Yeah, with the given key. And the key would be style name. Style name is all. No, actually, no, we don't even need to do that. We don't even need to do that. Well, let's do it that way for the time being. Okay, so when you ran this, we need to provide, it would ask for what style to use. And right now, the way this is set up, if I said clear, oh, actually, you know what we should do? Whoops. This would be marked selections and clear marked selections like so. Just it's good to have your package commands marked so it's easier to find them. So only clear marked selections is triggering here, and if we picked say 8, those ones go away. And if we did it again and pick like 4, those ones will go away. And if we did it again and picked, was it 2? No. That I'm not sure. Which one was reddish? Was it 0? Add regions. It was 0. If we cleared mark selections, which is style 1, I would have thought. Oh, I added those before I did the thing, didn't I? Right. Let's go ahead and just do this real quick, like. So that would definitely work, right? You could find all of the classes and then you could say mark the selection and mark it with style 5 like this, and then they're in there. And then at any given point, you could be like, yeah, clear the mark selections for style 5 like this. And then, life is good. What we might want to do is only show the list of things that are currently set in this particular buffer. And I think in order to do that, one of the things we're going to need to add in here is flags equals into this call. So we're going to do the style name. Well, actually, we'll call it style key, won't we? Yeah, let's call it style key in all the places we've used it, because that's what it actually is. And that's the scope. And so that's the list of regions. Flags, we want to throw something in here, and we'll say flags equals sublime dot persistent, so that they persist in the session. They'll come back after Sublime restarts. We just saw that they go away, but now when we do it, they won't. We could also provide extra settings for what style do you actually want to use for this. Do you want it to be no outline, whatever. But I think we're going to do that by letting the person actually set up the style that they're interested in a configuration thing, and go from there. It's probably the best way to do that. Now, what we could also do here is self.view. We want to keep a list of all of the styles that we've applied to this list based on the key that we've added them in. As a setting in the buffer, and that's why we're making the regions be persistent, because settings are persistent as well. So what we could say is marks is equal to self.view.settings.get marked selections, defaulting to an empty list, and then marks dot update for the style key. The style key not in marks. Marks dot update that, and then self.view.settings.set marked selections and the new list of marks, like so. I think that's what we want to do here. So if I was to hit that and then say mark selections style 1, it worked. List object. Oh, shoot. How do you do that, man? It's been so long since I worked on something Python related. Is it just append? It's probably just append, isn't it? Let's remove. Whoa, no, sorry. Don't do that, pal. Clear mark selections for style 1. Okay, let's try that again. We mark the word class, and then we mark selection for style 1. It seems to have worked, and if we say view.settings.get marked selections, we end up with cell style 0. If I decide I wanted to instead do it for these ones when I mark the selections for style 1, that jumps because there can only be one thing for each given time. Unless we wanted to try and add, which you could totally do by grabbing the current list of scopes, adding the new regions to it, and then, using get regions to get the regions that are currently using a particular key, then update the list and then reset it back. It's the only way to do something like that. And if I do this, it still says that. So now we have the view itself keeping track of what regions were added in there, right? Now here we say def is enabled self and style equals, we don't care what style is actually provided here. We'll say print like so. So every time we open the command palette, we see it saying that. Now this has to return a bool, and we're returning none, so that's why it's causing a problem. So we would say return true here, for example. So if we do that, when we say clear mark selections, that's happening, and every time we open the command palette, we see it triggering that, right? So right now, if I say clear mark selections, we definitely see it in the list. If this returned false when I open it and say marked or clear or anything, it's not being shown there because there's not actually anything there. But if we said to say self.view.settings.get return bool of this, that's going to be an empty list, and this is going to be marked selections like this. Okay. So I think that should do what we want. We get the setting for marked selections, defaulting it to an empty list if there isn't one, and then convert that to a Boolean, which I think should make an empty array end up being false and a non-empty list being true. So that if we were to go here and say marked selections, we don't see anything. But if we were over here and said marked selection, we do. And when it pops up, we can pick one and it will go away. But we got to be careful here before we do it because we need to do this thing here. Marks is equal to get that, and this should never happen. There should always be one for this to be listed, so we don't even have to do any of that business, right? Do you just use del to remove? Let's see. I'm going to Google for Python remove item from list because I probably searched for this before. The remove method will remove the first instance of a value in the list. The pop method removes an element at a given index and returns the removed item. So we want remove, assuming that's actually Python, and it seemed to be. So we know that our command was only invoked with a list that wasn't empty, so we don't need to worry about this part per se, but it's nice to have it in there. If style key's not in marks, if the style key is in marks, then something happens. Should never be the case. Marks.remove style key like this, and then set that setting back. So now when we say, we'll open the command palette there, sorry, open the thing there. When I say mark selections, clear the selections and pick one, it goes away. We don't see any errors. And now when I say it that, marked selection, we don't see it anymore because it knows it doesn't apply any longer. And we can take this one step further for this by, do we get, what's the list input handler's constructor? I don't think it gets anything specific as a constructor. Whoops. Class. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have anything. So what we're going to do is def init self and let's say view. Let's say. Do we want this to be a view? What we're going to do is pass in not necessarily the view to get the setting, or we could actually pass in the actual content of the setting. I think is what we want, because we want this to return all of them always when we're adding, but only to show the list of ones that have been used when you're clearing the selection. So in that case, what do we got going on here? Weird. Tomorrow's forecast in Surrey is sunny. We'll call it something, right? And then we can say self.something equals something like this. And we'll say something equals none. And down here, we can say this. So when you use the input handler for the clear one, it gets a specific list of just the items that there are, but when you add, it doesn't. And then we can say if not self.something, return the list of styles, otherwise return, style, nope, and like that. Okay, so if I was to actually select some text, like say that and that and that, and then mark selections, I end up with the whole list of things, and I'll pick one. So now they're all marked that way. And then when I clear the mark selections, the only one we get in the list is, ooh, uh, hmm. Oh, it needs to be a list. Oh, whoops. Not a tuple. That's okay, you go away now. That shouldn't be it should be a list of tuples, so there's actually needs to be wrapped like so. That's my bad. I forgot what I was doing there. Da, da, da. And clear mark selections. What we all see, only one we see in here is style nope, because that's the one we put in this list. Marks used, let's say, is what that should actually be called. If there's not marks used, return all of them. Otherwise, return a filter. And I think that's what we want. Python filter. It's been a while since I used this. Possibly the simple notes plugin. Python filter method constructs an iterator from elements of an iterable for which a function returns true. In simple words, something, 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 something. Where is this thing? There we go. And then we will find filter like so. Boop. And drag it out. So we can all see it. You give it a function, you give it something that's iterable, and it returns back a generator. So we need to actually cast it to be a list. And we want to search for things that are actually in the list, right? So filter function comma iterable. So filter function, and the iterable is the actual that. Okay, and once we're all done, we would actually want to wrap this in a list like this. Okay. Now, when was the last time I used something like this? I probably shouldn't have closed that so freely, huh? Da, da, da. How many arguments does it get? Da, da, da. Iterable means sequence or a container. If function is none, the identity function is assumed. So equivalent to the generator expression item for item and iterable if function item. So it actually gets one argument. So actually we could use a comprehension for this. Yeah, let's do that then. That's probably easier. Return something. E for E in underscore styles if E, that's the overall thing, the first item in self.marks used. That's probably the smartest way to do that. Clear mark selections, style 1 is the only one that's actually used. If I was to do that and mark that selection with style 2, now when we say we want to clear mark selections, we get style 1 and style 2. So if we picked style 1, those ones go away. And if we did it for that one, style 2 would go away. The way we've envisioned this command is kind of unfortunate. We're not going to keep it this way per se. It needs to just have an index in the list of the thing because the way this is defined right now works great for using the command palette, but it won't work for people that want to just bind the key to something because you have to pass an array for the style argument, which is not really what you want. We want to do it the way we did it originally, where you say style 0 or style 1 or something. So we need to fix that. And then one thing we can do when we do that is make it so when you clear mark selections, there could be an item in there that is all of them. that you can pick from the list as well. And it'll do that by returning a sentinel value. So let's say we need a new settings file. We'll save that into the user package as mark selection .sublime settings, and then we'll say, yes, it is. Don't talk like that. You know, it's supposed to remember that. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to quit that for the time being. I'm not going into that business right now. I might have to stop checking my Gmail with that program. We want to say sublime.load settings and mark selection.sublime settings. Now that I've loaded it, every time I save that, it says that. So now we have activated a new settings file. So we could say we want, what will we actually put in here? Styles. And that's going to be a list of objects, let's say. So the first one is going to be red text. So this would be a, oops, I can't do that, can I? It has to be, JSON has to be that, and the style, oops, is going to be region.reddish, like so. And we'll go ahead and copy, well, go ahead and copy that and paste it a few more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's see, this is orange, and this is yellow, and this one is green. You know, I probably could have did that a little bit of a smarter way. I could probably do this and then go like that, sort of. Copy that and then go. Oh, actually, what I should have did, whoops, go back. What I should have did is this, right? And copy and then go 1, 2, no, actually just go paste that. We get the things that we want. Then we come back over to this one and go 1, 2, 3, copy, and then I messed this one up. Whoops, go away, because I fiddled with those ones. But if we also did that, that, and that, and expanded those ones out, pasted them in, then went back one, did that, and title cased it. Then we just have to make this one orange, this one blue, and this one purple. And we end up with something good, ish, right? Yeah. Those got a little funky and I didn't notice it, but that's okay. There. So now we have a list of the actual styles that can be utilized here. I'm going to assume that that's what we want. So now, instead of underscore styles, we could say def get style or get style list. And then we could say settings equals sublime.load settings. And the settings file we want to load is mark selection .sublime settings. Remember, don't use a path name on this because it's going to pull in this settings file and the one from your user package, which for right now are the same one. And then say return settings dot get styles with a default of an empty list. Now we have a style list, and we need to actually we need to massage this into some other style, don't we? Because this isn't quite what we're using now. That's going to be an index. Let's add another item in here. A key of style arithmetic I. Yeah, just cuz. And a comma, and then move them all up one. Okay, so now every style has the key and the textual name and the style that it would actually use. Actually, I guess we want that to be slightly different, don't we? I think if that's the case, now that I'm thinking about the data structure, we actually want this to be different. Dang, we want the styles list to be an actual list of things like that. Yeah, I know. I know you're unhappy, pal. It's cool. Find all of these. So if we look for style underscore, find all of them, and then do that, we can copy that and come over to here and do this, and then find all of these, zoop it over, go like that. Whoops, don't do that, pal. This needs to be, oh. There we go. That. And a colon. For some reason, that one's got a bunch of spaces. That's all dumb. Get rid of that. And then we go up here and do a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And we probably need to indent these a little bit so that it looks a little nicer. That one can have that. We don't care. And then we don't need the key anymore. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those lines we don't need. We only need the other ones. We need these. So, and we would, oops. That numeric keypad thing is really screwing me up. If we cut that, then looked for this. There's the name of each one, and then we find all the styles. Cut that, find all of the names, paste that in, delete the empty line, and throw everything else away. There we go. We reworked it a little bit. I think that's more like what we would like this to be. Because we want to have a style key and then have a human readable name and the style that it actually applies. Now this is actually going to be something different here, like this. And if we were to get the style list, what we want to return is something a little different than what we were getting before. Let's first of all go ahead and clear. Oh, did I? Oops. Marked selection. Oh, it it lost its business there. Shoot. And those are persistent now. That is an unfortunate turn of events. It should still work. Why doesn't it? View.settings.get marked selection. Oh, because it's empty. I'm not sure how that happened. That's easy enough to solve, though. Maybe there was a problem in deleting a thing. Yeah. So now we have a list of styles. The list input handler is going to provide marks used. That's going to be the actual key for things. So we want get style list to be something that we can be using in here, and we want the list items to be oh yeah, this is the text, this is the value. So I think get style list should just return the setting directly. like so. Mm, Uh, style. We should return, ask the settings to get the value of the styles key. Yeah, that's right. That's what we want. And that is going to be just the core list of actual styles that have been defined for this thing. We're running out of time here. Maybe we'll go long because we haven't streamed in a while, and I want to get back into the groove of this thing, as they say. So in that case, we have the style list. It's getting the thing. So what we want to return from this is something that's the name key of the item, and the actual key itself as the value that will be passed along. So if marks used isn't, do that. So if I selected some text like this and said mark selections, it says currently style 1, style 2, style 3. It's doing the old thing, right? So that's this bit here because there's no marks currently used. So we would return a list of things that is a list of what? E for E in get style list. Wait a minute. Get style list dot, because it's going to return a dictionary dot items. That will return the key, which is the actual style name, and the value. So the item we want to return from here is the first thing is the thing that will be the text that's displayed. That's the values name key. And then the second thing will be the key, like this. And we turn that off. And that seems to compile. So if we were to, we need some actual selected text here. We select it, we say mark selections. We end up with red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, pink, thus, right? And whichever one we pick is going to do something not what we want because we haven't implemented the rest of the functionality yet. So we got to fix that part first. So this is the part that's broken right now. In mark selection, we're going to get a style. That's the style key to use. So here we need to say get style list to get the list of styles, get the actual value for the thing that was provided using a value of none as the default. And the style provided is the key. So let's see. We get the style list. That's this list. We have the key that gives us this to get the object that we're getting here. So this should actually be a little bit of that. And then we want to get from that style, and we'll throw in region.reddish, just so that if you do this for a style that doesn't exist, you end up with red text as the error state. And then this is the scope is equal to that. Style key is equal to style, so we don't need to do anything there. And now when we add regions, we add it for style for the selection using that scope, and it's persistent. We update the settings by grabbing the settings. If the style is not in the list of marks, then add it to the list of marks and update the selection. That has to be there because you might select text, make it red, then select other text, make it red. You've replaced the red text with other red text, right? So I think that's all that's needed for this. So if I was to select that and say mark selections and choose, say, yellow text, that has worked. We see it did that. If I was to ask this view for its selections, it's using style 2, which is the yellow text, which is what we want. Then we come to clear marked selections. this is going to be provided the list of things that are used, right? And that's what is going to hit this. So right now, when I do mark selection, clear mark selections, oh, oh, why did that happen? Huh. I know it's not subscriptable. Oh, uh, if we got this, in line 60, somehow it's triggering there right away. It really shouldn't be. Clear marked selection shouldn't have the ability to do that yet because we haven't actually told it. Um, is it because that is enabled? No, that worked before. That is curious. I don't think that should be the case. Yeah, line 60. Line 60 is totally the one where you've asked it to clear the marked selection and it already knows what the style is. And then it gets mad because style is actually none. Oh, it must be because of this. Yeah, see, that does not seem correct. Indeed, yeah, there's a comment there. Aesthetically, a check would be good if the region added has a color that conflicts the scope's color at that point to make it readable. Yeah, ultimately, you probably want something like this to work in that way where it generates a little bit of a color scheme override or something. Or alternatively, you could mark things with just not a filled border, but with a colored border, or with underlines or squiggles or something as options in the styles list. But I'm kind of confused why that is triggering things now in a way that it previously did not. It's just immediately running the command, even though it doesn't have an argument. Did I add an argument to it over here? I don't think I did. That is intriguing. There's an obvious dumb bug here. It should try to run the command, not have a style argument, call input. Input is being called with args. If it should be calling style input handler. So it should be doing this. If it's doing what we expect. And it is, but for some reason, that's weird. Return blah, blah, blah for key value and get style list dot items. Oops, pardon me. If k in self dot marks used. I don't understand why code there returning something that should be valid is not. But if we remove the yellow text, um, it doesn't actually do anything. That's interesting. Oh, because it didn't actually fix that thing yet. Crap. Okay, hang on. We're gonna need to open that back up again. This is still using the old style thing. The style that it gets past now is the actual key that it needs. So in that case, every place where a style key exists is just style, and then get the mark selections, remove it, update it, and then we can remove that print. So let's try that again. We mark all of these as, say, cyan, because that's a delightful color. I'm kind of surprised that Sublime doesn't automatically adjust things, to be perfectly honest. Because if you use a scope that has a background color, it's like ignored to make sure that things don't work unless the background color is different than the background color that's provided. If I clear the mark selections of cyan text, there we go. Now they're gone. And now when I say clear mark selections, they're no longer there. Now, if I did this and marked it with yellow and did this and marked it with, say, purple, what we'd like is for the clear mark selections to have an item in here that says all. Um, so that if there was a special sentinel key, it could remove all of them and not just the one. What's a nice way to pull something like that off, though, is the question. I guess the easiest thing to do, first of all, this is kind of manky. Would kind of be nice if we didn't have to do this. If marks used defaulted to all of them, then when you try to add, all of them would be provided. So that might be a nice thing to do. What we could do is in this one, we could say, let's see, get style list to get the list of all the styles dot keys to get a list of them, like so. Um, if I printed inner and printed outer, oops, like that, we'd see that if I do clear mark selections, it says it's getting the outer one because it's definitely been provided a list. If we had some text selected, well, maybe we'll do that, nicer like this. And we mark the selections. Now it's still in outer. So I think if we did that, it's sort of a nicer thing to do. It's always going to find all of them because they're always in the list. So that makes that a little bit nicer, just looking at it, because all of this kind of looks gross with this self view settings, get mark selections and set selections. I kind of like want to abstract that away a little bit into something to make life a little bit nicer. But if this is the list of things, then maybe we want an extra Boolean argument here for include all. We'll set it to false. Self dot include all and is equal to include all. Everything would still work the exact same way. Result is equal to that if self dot include all, then result dot insert. Is that how you do that? I cannot remember. Python insert into list. Is it a method? Why is the Python documentation like the 30th thing down in a list for something like that? That's irritating. Yeah, okay. So result.insert, yeah, exactly, 0, and an item that is all marks and a key that is something like that. And for this, then not a great sentinel, but we're working it. And the other argument that needs to be provided here is true. So if we had some text that was selected and said mark selections, oh, we broke it. Oh, whoops. Got to return the list, otherwise it doesn't work. So if we did mark selections, we still get red, orange, yellow, blah, 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 blah. And if we had special handling for all, we would do something special for all, right? We need to do something similar to what we did for that thing. So let's say this. If style equals what's the fastest way to pull something like this off? Let's say marks equals style if style is not equal to all else. Get style list dot keys. List? Yeah, that's cool. This should probably just be a list, I would think. Does it filter the colors if one tries to mark a region that already marked with that color? For the insertion one, it will still show you all of them anyway, because you might want to replace what you have marked with red with something else that's marked with red. But when you clear it, it only should show you ones that you've actually used. Now we can say for mark key in marks, do this. Yeah. And then we say style. Oh, I'm reusing the same thing. That's going to be bad. We might call this mark. Del mark keys is that. For mark key in del mark keys. And then mark that should be mark key. So when you call this, you give it a style. If the style is not all, then it's on the list of just one thing. But if it is this special all sentinel value, then it gets the list of all keys in the dictionary, which is all of the potential styles. And then for each one of them, it erases that region and pulls stuff out. And what we might actually do here is put this here and this here. So that could be used marks like this. So these are the list of keys to delete. These are the ones that are currently in use in the buffer. And when we pass this, it's a list of the different region keys we want to delete, and that would be either just the specific one, unless it's all, in which case it's all of them, and then we iterate over every single one of them, erase them. If there's a region key that's not in use, erasing it doesn't have any effect, and if it's in the list of used marks, remove it from that list, and then in the end, update the setting to include the new thing. And now that that is all done, I should be able to say clear mark selections and clear just say pink, and only that style input handler goes away, but everything else remains. And then if I did it again and picked say all marks, all of them should go away. But what did I do wrong here? Oh, I suppose, which line was this? Line 62. It should be, to this one. I guess that, because it's a function that we're calling. We're not trying to get the thing from the argument. Now we say all marks, all of them go away, and now that command is gone. So yeah, I mean, that works. This doesn't need to be here anymore. Get rid of that. Now, if we wanted to make this a little bit nicer, and we have gone a little bit over the amount of time that I would normally spend on something like this, but, for the purposes of doing fun stuff. Is there anything else we could do in here? We could change this to be style list. That seems like it might be a little bit nicer. Is it possible to associate a region with glow? Unfortunately, not at the current time. That can only be applied by a color scheme. You can underline things because regions have the ability to underline, but the glow thing is currently a color scheme only. This is exactly something that I was sort of hoping, once I realized how cool glow could be for making things. Imagine if for something like this, instead of doing this, the paragraph could glow as it moves down through the list. I imagine myself in plugin 101 having a plugin that every time I tap a key moves a region down one line or down two lines or something, so that the video would show glowing text when you're talking about what a line is doing without actually having to do it. And as of right now, that's not a thing. I think there's the historically adding regions is supposed to be just for displaying the colored rectangles or the squiggly underlines and things like that, and they didn't want to get into actually being able to change font styles. You can't use a region to make text bold or italic either, so there's sort of historical precedent for not having the glow and the underline in there either, unfortunately. But maybe this is one of those things that an issue would be good for. That reminds me. Bold false, glow true, italic true. Bold, italic, and glow. You'll note that there's a new underline thing you can use in a color scheme to make a scope underlined, but it doesn't show up in style for scope. The same thing happened when glow was added. They didn't return glow from this, and I think there's an issue for that. Someone's going to have to add that in. On the whole, I think that's actually, take that back up one. Apply a region to mark the current selection visibly. There can be multiple regions to choose from. Now, I guess, as you say, a lot of this is mark selection with like green. Isn't necessarily the greatest choice of thing there, but there's actually a fair bit of customization that could, don't do that. There's actually a fair bit of customization that could happen here. That's interesting. You can undo regions. Huh. I think that's how I managed to do that last time and got things a little bit out of sync. Mark selections as red text. Now all of them are marked as red. And if I do an undo, that goes away as a part of that undo operation. So that's kind of a sticky point for something like this, because now they're totally listed as being marked as red, even though they're not. What I did do, though, was make those persistent. So once they're added, if you quit and come back, they're still there. And I got to wait for the plugins to load, and then you can clear the green text. These commands, the way we've implemented them now, can take a style name directly as an argument, in which case the input handler doesn't trigger at all. And it could easily be added as a context menu item as well. And we could also augment the menu. I think Notepad++ has like a search thing. So maybe add something to the find menu that says mark selection with style. And these style names here, if we said that there is a maximum number of styles that can be provided, like I think Notepad++ uses like 5, if we said there's a maximum number of these, and this was a list of a different style, then you could even make menu items that take the text from here and use it as the caption. We could add it to that menu. We could add it to a context menu. The person could add it to a key binding. I think that's pretty cool, all things told. The code is kind of ugly based on the way that we sort of, fiddled it around. But that's sort of what happens when you start with an idea and follow it through to see how it all works out. Because it could definitely be a lot better. We could determine, for example, what situations we need style list for and have specific functions that return just the information that we want instead of manipulating it by calling keys sometimes and items sometimes. And we could actually have this return the data in the format that we actually care about. And this whole marks used item is kind of poorly named for what we're using it for here. It should actually be marks displayed or something. And then you say that you want all of them to be displayed or you want none of them to be displayed. In fact, marks used equals none could actually cause this to pull the actual full list from things. And there's a little bit of error handling that's sort of missing here as well when it comes down to that sort of thing. Fudgy Ripple. It changed my scene transition, man. That is not cool. I don't think that it's specifically set to fade, man. I was listening to some some podcasts recently where people were really railing on OBS, about how it's free and you get what you pay for. By and large, it mostly works, but every now and then it does something that I do not like. In any case, that is going to be the end of the stream tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We actually came up with a couple of interesting plugin ideas here, inserting text to be able to align things to specific rulers. And yeah, I might actually use that myself next time I'm cleaning up some code. Still remains whether or not we want to clean that up a little bit, share it on the forum, throw it in as is, actually ask that person what it is they intended because it wasn't particularly clear. Hard to say. It does seem to happen every time, doesn't it? The scene transition is very clearly set to fade. It is not set to intro stinger transition, which it is if it was set to studio mode. That's totally what it's set to there, but it's not in studio mode. There's OBS that's free, and then there's Streamlabs OBS that's not free and only works on Windows. And a lot of streamers use that one. And I have a feeling that there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why that thing's only available for some platforms. Maybe I need one of them fancy Stream Deck things so that I have like a bunch of macro keys to use. Things to think of. I also need a cool backdrop for myself. So, what can you do? I think I got the lighting situation kind of nailed, though. I'm kind of going blind from the one up there. I actually have an even bigger one. But that's neither here nor there. I think we're going to wind this bad boy up. There will definitely be a stream next Tuesday unless my computer explodes, which hopefully won't happen. I do have a replacement, but I still have to install everything on it, so that can take a little bit of time. What with all the video prep and real life and work and such like, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think I have solved the weird audio problems that stopped me from being able to do anything last time. At least I'm not hearing anything, and I didn't hear it in any of my tests. So until the next live stream, remember that if any of this stuff seemed interesting and you want to learn more about it, over on my other channel, linked down in the description below. Every other week, we're running Plugin 101, where next week, if I remember various things that are recorded over last week, we're going to talk about the plugin host and parts of the plugin lifestyle. And then I have another one recorded about how to get various aspects of actually doing our personal plugin work, doing things like getting the architecture that Sublime is running under and things of that nature. We're getting there. I'm trying to keep those videos down to a short length. And if you just want Sublime Text tutorials in general, tips, tricks, and things like that, that channel is great for that as well. This is the channel that you come to when you want to watch me wonder why my code doesn't work, and then you realize that it's because I specifically wrote it to not work and forgot all about it. It's entertaining in its own way. But until the next live stream or the next video, this is OdatNurd. Thank you for watching, and have a sublime night, day, morning, afternoon. Everything should be sublime. Absolutely everything.